Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews. We're going to be discussing J.J. Abrams is addressing angry fans and his maturity for the most part in doing this. This article is from comicbook.com. Over the last 4 decades, the Star Wars franchise has benefited from having some of the most passionate fans in the galaxy, from merchandising to media, from cosplaying to role playing. Skywalker Saga has been part and parcel with the community that has grown up and supported the franchise throughout multiple generations. And with such a rabid fandom comes some more toxic elements, as there are also people who tend to take their passion a step too far. Now, that's not to say everyone who criticizes Star Wars is a bad fan, but there's no denying that some people take their passion a step too far. And they are right for the most part there. There have been a few toxic fans here and there. And I will acknowledge that I have actually read a few toxic fans' hateful comments. But there are also those who are very civil and very kind with their comments that Disney has written off, and people like Rian Johnson has written off. Believe me, I'm one of them. I actually tried being civil. I asked Rian Johnson on Twitter one time before I even started my channel up. What are your thoughts on people criticizing the throne room? Because I've also noticed that, or the throne room fight, and I've also noticed that some of the choreography was less than on par with most Star Wars films, and the weapon that disappears behind Rey's back but also disappears in clear view. And he's like, well, you don't like it? That's too bad. You could also suck my dick because you don't matter. You're a toxic fan. That was basically his response to me. Calling me toxic and telling me that I could suck him off. That's disgusting. But anyway, J.J. Abrams recognized this all too well, and after Force Awakens premiered in theaters, he received a lot of criticism for myriad reasons, even though the film went on to gross $1 billion at the box office. The thing is, a movie can make $1 billion and still not be good. There are many examples. Alice in Wonderland, The Last Jedi, and by extension, because of Last Jedi, The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens by itself is a good movie. It's a decent movie. But because it's part of a larger story, and because it is now forever connected to The Last Jedi, it is not a good movie, or it fails because of that. But yet, Captain Marvel is another good example of a bad movie that made $1 billion. And there are a bunch of movies that can make $1 billion and still be objectively bad. Anyway, during an interview with Marvelous TV at D23 Expo, Abrams was asked how he deals with fans, and he gives an answer understanding to the passionate responses, good or bad, to the newest Star Wars films. You just have to be grateful for them. He's talking about the fans, the angrier fans, because you don't want to be working on something no one cares about. And you have to understand that they've got their opinions, and of course you have to value them. You're never going to please everyone, or you have to know that going in, and just do the best you can. I'm nothing but thankful as someone who considers myself a fan. I can't wait for them to see this film. In recent years, Last Jedi has proven to be divisive among the fandom, well, at least they admit that much, and while debates rage on whether Abrams would be course correcting after that, the director made it clear that he's sticking with the path Rian Johnson laid out. The story that we started to conceive when we did The Force Awakens was allowed to continue. Episode 8 didn't really derail anything that we were thinking about, which is a lie when he talked to the Associated Press and said that. But I will say that the fun of this movie is that the characters are sticking together, and yada yada yada. But yeah, that is an out and out lie because earlier this year, or was it last year, he basically said when he was brought into episode 9, he didn't really want to be brought into episode 9. He actually didn't even want to be brought into episode 7. But after episode eight's divisive content and whatnot reached a peak, and they said, and Ryan Johnson basically came out and said, I don't care if he changes things. I don't care if he course corrects or whatever. Basically, it became apparent that J.J. Abrams would have to address certain things, and he did. He said, we didn't communicate together. We should have communicated a lot more, but there was no communication of how the story was going to unfold and what the major plan was for the story. When somebody says that, that means that this movie trilogy was doomed. Because if you guys aren't going to talk to each other and keep the story fleshed out, there was no plan for the main story. And Kathleen Kennedy even said this when she openly lied, but partially told the truth. We had nothing to go on from earlier works. There was nothing. We didn't have any plan. Well, you had a lot of books, comics, games, and whatnot, like George Lucas said in that interview that you were in. You see, this is why I do not like Disney Star Wars or 99% of Disney Star Wars. Only one thing they have done I actually agree with and like, and that was Rogue One. The rest of their properties I can't like. I just don't like. I couldn't bring myself to feel the same joy as I did back with the other Star Wars stuff pre-Disney. And yes, there were some issues I had with Clone Wars. That was pre-Disney Clone Wars. The Mandalorians, I believe, were mishandled very poorly. They should have kept the Karen Traviss model of Mandalorians. I mean, I believe she was one of the best people to do the whole Mandalorian arcs in the books of the old EU Legends. But yeah, I saw Rebels a little bit. I couldn't get into that because they had time travel and it was done poorly. The only reason why I think they even did time travel was to bring Ahsoka back to life and whatnot, and I think that is the worst thing they could have ever done. There was a time traveling element in the EU Legends called flow walking, but that didn't really change history. Because history has a way of course correcting, where they completely just did stupid things with this whole room of between space and time or whatever. It makes no sense. Also, they hyped up in Rebels the fight between old Obi-Wan or Ben Kenobi and Maul, all for a 1.5 second fight. From the moment that Maul leaped over to Obi-Wan and the Obi-Wan dealing the death blow, it was literally 1.5 seconds long. And they generated that hype for a year. 1 year's hype for a second and a half? No wonder there was a lot of pissed off fans. They wanted that fight to take place. They wanted that fight to be good. But 1.5 seconds. Maul was no slouch. Maul, and yes, neither was Ben Kenobi. But still, you could have done better, Disney. I also didn't like how they handled the ending of it. Basically, they have a fleet of hyperspace animals? That was ridiculous. But then again, it was a small it was a largely inspired by, most likely in my opinion, it was largely inspired by Zanama Sekat, which is a force sensitive planet that is also sentient, which in the EU legends, a planet that could literally travel through hyperspace and whatnot. But anyway, yeah. There's been a lot of screw ups on Disney's behalf. But as for J.J. Abrams addressing angry fans and whatnot, I think that his response was mature for the most part. But when he talked about how he wasn't going to course correct for Ryan Johnson's monumental desecration of Star Wars, well, I don't agree with him on that, and he also lied, so it's sort of a balance out to nullification, in my opinion. Anyway, that's the video. If you guys like the video, you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know what you guys think about the J.J. Abrams' response. Do you think it was, or do you think it was mature of him? Do you think that his non-course correcting in Star Wars is a good thing or a bad thing? Let me know down in the comments below. That's the video. This has been Orange Hat Reviews, and I'll catch y'all on the next one.